Hey folks, and welcome back to the channel. Now in this one, I wanted to have a bit of a chat with you guys about some of the upcoming features for Project Zomboid, specifically focused on animals, hunting, and tracking. Now as you guys might know, we've seen a bunch of exciting stuff in recent developer blogs that I've covered right here on the channel as we're seeing some more features starting to be revealed closer to Build 42. And I wanted to take the time to talk it over with you folks, share some of my ideas, pilfered from other games that do some of these things particularly well, and try to generate some positive discussion in the comments about what you would like to see included when we see this stuff in Build 42. Now if you enjoy the discussion or find something useful from this video, be sure to drop it a like, join in on the conversation, or subscribe for more videos just like this one. But first, a special thank you to today's sponsor, Enlisted, a free-to-play, dynamic, multiplayer World War II shooter that keeps you in the thick of the fight as often as possible. Available on PC, Xbox, or PlayStation consoles. Outside of my usual zombie-themed content, I am a massive fan of historical shooters, but I only get to ever play them casually, which is why I appreciate the squad play in Enlisted so much. I can jump into a game, and if I die, I can jump right back into the shoes of one of my AI squad members, and I'm right back in the action without any waiting around. So if you're the same as me and like to get into the action as soon as possible, you can download the game entirely for free using my link in the description and get yourself a bonus for registering with my link, including 3 days of premium and several orders for troops and weapons. Download Enlisted today. So, first things first, what do we know about animals, hunting, and tracking so far? Right now, we're going off some recent dev blogs that have shown us some interesting stuff, but they've been weeks apart, and I figure it's a good idea to collect some of this info and recap it all in one place. Most recently, we've seen some deer, which seems like they're going to be a big target for hunting and tracking practices in Build 42. We also know that there will be a brand new tracking skill, which will become more effective as you level up, just like any other skill, revealing more information from signs of animals passing through the area. We know that animals such as deer will have preset migration paths that they will follow, with several breadcrumb trails left along the way for hunters to pick up. They will eat, drink, and sleep between certain hours and will revisit the same locations, which allows players to set up shop near to an area they think animals have been recently, in the hopes that they will come by them again soon. In the last dev blog, we were also teased with some footage of rabbits, but weren't told much about them just yet. Now, I'd hazard a guess that these will be pests for farmers and will likely be huntable as well. Lastly, we know that there are other animals in the works, such as livestock and various animals that would be considered more ambient background, like rats and spiders. We haven't seen anything in regards to predator-type animals as of yet, or other animals that we can hunt, but I'd say it's a safe guess to make that we might see some of these in the future. Now, with all of this in mind and the little we know about hunting in Project Zomboid already, I started thinking about what I would be interested in seeing with the hunting features coming to the game. The devs behind Project Zomboid love their details and depth in all facets of the game, right? With it being in development, there's probably a lot we haven't seen yet too. When I got thinking about what kind of stuff I wanted attached to hunting, my brain kept going back to one particular game that's been out since early 2017, and that's The Hunter, Call of the Wild. Of course, it's important for me to note here that this is a game entirely focused on hunting, and naturally it can't really be compared to Project Zomboid, but, as I mentioned, the PZ devs love to go into detail, and when it comes to hunting, I think this game is a perfect example of how to do it, and there's some elements I'd really love to see implemented into Project Zomboid's upcoming systems for hunting. Firstly, let's stick to some of the more tracking related stuff in Call of the Wild. If you find an area that animals use for things such as sleeping, grazing, or drinking, it's marked on your map. This also applies to locations where you've spotted animals previously for a limited time. Now with Project Zomboid, we'll likely have to place these icons ourselves on the map with a pencil or pen, but something that could be possible later down the line as Project Zomboid gets some more animals is being able to identify which animal has been to these areas. I say later down the line because right now we've only already seen deer and rabbits as animals that we might be able to hunt, but as this diversifies into a wider range of animals, higher levels in the tracking skill could help to distinguish which animals have visited a feeding or sleeping spot. Something else that Call of the Wild does quite well is the use of tools or equipment when hunting. Once you've identified an area to set up and spot an animal, or even if you're just patrolling an area, things like callers, rattlers, or sprays can be used to attempt to attract animals. Each one appeals to a different type of animal. For example, in this clip I was using a roe deer caller specifically to target the breed of deer I wanted to hunt. I'm far from a hunting expert or an expert on the particular breeds present in Kentucky, but I would think that having different tools to be employed when looking for specific animals could be an interesting way to add more items for players to seek out in their playthroughs, whilst adding a layer of depth to hunting. Now, the next point I wanted to talk about is weapons and ammunition. I know this is going to be a really dangerous thing for me, and I'm sure I'll get lots and lots of comments from firearms enthusiasts telling me that I've got everything wrong and I'm a silly British man that understands nothing about guns. And that's entirely correct. Again, I'm not the expert here, but in simple terms, different types of ammunition is used when hunting different types of animals. And on top of that, different weapons are built for a select ammunition type. As a practical example, once again using Call of the Wild, I was using a .270 caliber, which according to the game's description is a step up from .223 and is best used for deer and larger, thicker skinned animals like caribou, boar, and so on. Using a .223 on the latter of these animals wouldn't be a great idea, and you likely wouldn't have enough stopping power to take one down in a clean shot. Now, the reason I mention this, although I know Project Zomboid developers have been historically against implementing too much variation in ammunition, it may be worth exploring ammo specifically built for hunting purposes, and ensuring that certain ammo isn't as effective in such situations. On a similar trail of thought, it would make sense to emphasize the importance of a clean shot, not just firing multiple rounds in hopes of hitting something. Multiple hits could mean less usable meat from the kill, for example, which would encourage using proper calibers to take down the game in one shot. Again, I don't think it's necessary to go too over the top with all the different types of ammo, but using the proper caliber for the proper target with associated rewards for doing so seems like a good way to add more detail to the experience. Moving on to another aspect of hunting then, the Project Zomboid devs mentioned in their last Thursdoid, covering ongoing development, that they'd like to look into human smell and wind direction potentially spooking animals as it would in real life, but that this is planned further down the line. I'm not quite sure how the developers plan to let players tell the wind direction, but I do think it's an important aspect to consider. Now, in Call of the Wild, it's a simple HUD element, but in Project Zomboid, it might be better to add this to some sort of action, checking wind direction manually so it's not cluttering the interface. I really like this as a feature because not only does it provide a level of difficulty to hunting, but it also gives the opportunity to work in some sprays to attract animals and turn what was previously a negative in that wind is blowing towards the animal you're looking to hunt into a positive. For me, it's all about having multiple layers of difficulty, equipment, and knowledge, just like every other skill in Project Zomboid, and this feels like just another way to do that. Now, the last thing I want to talk about for today, and something I think will complement what we've already seen in Build 42, that's the use of structures and craftables for hunting purposes. We already know that a whole bunch of crafting is coming to Build 42, including an entire overhaul of the current crafting system and added crafting types, like pottery. Whether it falls under carpentry or perhaps another new crafting tree in Build 42, I think the use of crafted structures like hunting stands, or even looted hunting hides from surplus or camping stores, could be a great addition to Build 42, slotting neatly in with a lot of existing systems that are being developed. The developers have already said they're putting an emphasis on self-crafted alternatives for a lot of looted items as well, and I feel like this could be yet another example of a lootable item that could be crafted by makeshift means later on in the apocalypse. Structures like these would allow players to stay hidden from animals in exchange for their movement, allowing them to lie in wait for an animal to cross their path. Once again, a very special thank you to today's sponsor, Enlisted, the free-to-play World War II multiplayer shooter that keeps you in the action. Download for free using my link in the description for extra extra bonuses when you sign up to play today. So that's just about it from me in this one, but before I wrap up, I did want to open the floor to some of you folks out there for your thoughts on hunting, tracking, and the various systems we could see in Project Zomboid that are associated to it. Is there anything that you'd like to add if it were in your hands? Do you agree with some of the stuff I've related to in this video, or was there another game that you think has done it better? Let me know in the comments. The purpose of this video is positive discussion and suggestions, so I'd really like to hear from you guys on this one. As always, a very special thank you to all of my Patreon supporters for backing the channel, joining our themed Patreon server, and for helping us develop some Project Zomboid mods with your contributions. If you want to join them, there's a link in the description. Thanks folks, and I'll see you all in the next one.